This little delicacy is called a cronut. Have you heard of them before? Well, according to the interwebs, they were actually invented by an enterprising baker in New York. These palate-pleasing pastries are truly pioneering, melding the tender flakiness of a croissant with the deep-fried decadence of a donut. Roughly 20 years ago, Toyota began developing a cronut of its own, following a similar out-of-the-box thought process. You see, they had the bright idea of combining a gasoline engine with an electric motor and a battery pack to create a hybrid automobile. And like these delicious half-breed pastries, their fuel-sipping Prius became a global sensation. In fact, more than 3.5 million of them have been sold since it debuted in 1997. Oh, sorry. Anyway, the 2016 version of this pioneering hybrid promises to deliver more fuel economy, greater interior space, and more technology than ever. But will it deliver on all of those promises? Well, we're going to find out, and I think I'm going to need to get a little insulin because that is a lot of sugar. As you can see, the all-new 4th generation Prius has been completely overhauled, and it's dressed in a brand new, much more aggressive design theme, which is particularly evident both front and rear. But in spite of that scowling face, you do get standard LED headlamps along with active grille shutters that help this vehicle slice through the wind and allow the engine to warm up more quickly in cold temperatures, two things that improve fuel efficiency. All this new styling surrounds equally fresh dimensions. The 2016 Prius is almost 2.5 inches longer, more than ½ inch wider, and almost 1 inch lower. These numerical changes increase both occupant and cargo space, plus they lower the vehicle's center of gravity. Further improving the way this machine handles, its underlying platform is 60% more torsionally rigid than the outgoing models. It's also the first vehicle to ride on Toyota's new global architecture, which is comprised of 19% high-strength steel, up from just 3% in today's Prius. Speaking of the outgoing car, it's motivated by a hybrid drivetrain that's centered around a 1.8-liter gasoline 4-cylinder engine, and that is exactly what you find under the hood of the 2016 Prius. Except not exactly. You see, this Prius's engine has been completely overhauled. It features redesigned intake ports and coolant passages, reduced internal friction, it runs lower viscosity oil, and even benefits from large volume exhaust gas recirculation. And all of these changes boost its thermal efficiency to 40%, which should be the best of any mass-produced engine in the world. Naturally, it's also got an electric motor and a continuously variable transaxle, and these drivetrain components were optimized to reduce internal friction and cut weight, which is always a good thing. Now, every hybrid needs a battery pack, and the Prius is going to offer 2 of them. Base models come with a nickel metal hydride chemistry to keep costs down, but most of these cars are going to feature a lithium-ion cell system that will provide more energy in a smaller package, and that is always a good thing when it comes to fuel efficiency. So here I am behind the wheel of the all-new Toyota Prius in here, and I've got to say, talking about the cabin, it looks a lot like its predecessor. It's very futuristic and frankly a little bit odd. You do have that 2-tier dashboard, sort of a floating center console here as well. No gauges immediately in front of me, so it's a lot like previous generation Prius, but it's sort of more modern looking as well. As for the materials quality, they're quite high in the new Prius here. The dashboard is comprised largely of soft plastic that has a low sheen to it, which looks nice, and the hard materials are quite attractive as well. And outward visibility, I've got to say, is pretty excellent. The windshield is gigantic. There's plenty of side glass. It's a little bit restricted to the rear, but not that bad. Certainly worlds better than the Camaro I drove a few weeks ago, which I mentioned was like driving a bunker. Now, there's this one complaint about it in here, and it centers on the sun visors, which do not extend. I'm a bit of a taller driver. My seat tends to be a little farther back, and this does nothing for me when the sun is coming in from the side. It blinds me in when you're driving and you're blinded. It's not a good thing. The 2016 Prius handles pretty well, though it's no sports car, but it is nicely improved. NVH is a lot better than in the previous car. It's a lot quieter, a lot smoother in here as well. You can tell it's got that stiffer structure and a lot more sound deadening too. The steering in this car is surprisingly sharp, and there's almost no deadness on center from its electrically boosted rack, which is quite interesting because this is a hybrid. It's not really meant to be fun to drive, though the weighting is a little bit light. Still, it's pleasant enough to drive. Out back, engineers replaced the previous model's torsion beam suspension with a proper dual wishbone setup, and on paper, that is a lot more advanced, though I'd say in the real world it doesn't make that much of a difference. At least I don't notice much of a difference. If you were driving, say, a 2015 Prius and a 2016 model back-to-back on the same day on the same road, yes, this one might feel a bit more planted, a bit more stable, but I think for most customers it really doesn't matter. Let's take a moment to talk about Powertrain. The one in this car has been tuned for a lot more low-end torque than in the past. You can do that, of course, with an electric motor, which they deliver tons of twist at basically 0 RPM, and this car scoots along quite nicely up to about 30-35 miles an hour. It'll surprise you with the acceleration, though it does get a little bit winded when you're going faster, say on the highway when you're going to overtake a truck or something. And overall, it should deliver a similar 0 to 60 time to the outgoing Prius, which is adequate but hardly stellar. And this car's drivetrain delivers the goods, well, penny-pinching fuel economy at least. You see, it's projected to deliver 54 miles per gallon in urban conditions and 50 on the highway for an average of about 52 mpg combined, which is sweeter than sugar. Could very well give you the diabetes. But besting even these incredible figures, which according to Toyota are the best of any car that does not have a plug, they are working on an eco variant of the Prius. It should sticker at 58 miles per gallon around town, 53 on the interstate, making for an average of 56 miles per gallon. Can you believe that? I certainly can't. So there it is. That's what you should know about the 2016 Toyota Prius. If you're into saving the planet or even just a little bit of money at the pump, it is a pretty sweet car. You know, it offers more technology, more interior space, more advancements than ever before, and of course, way more miles per gallon than the previous model. And if you're curious, you can pick one up, a Prius 2 version, which is sort of the entry-level model, for about $25,035, including $835 in shipping and handling fees, and that. Pretty sweet deal.